In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. By the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, one with Luisa, the little daughter of the divine will, I enter into the holy divine will. Come, divine will, come beat in my every heartbeat. Come breathe in my every breath. Come pray, adore, and reign in me. In the name of everyone and everything, past, present, and future. In, with, through, and for Jesus, Mary, and Luisa. In, with, and for all, that all may be for the glory of God and the good of all souls, giving to God as if all lived in the most holy divine will, united with creation, redemption, and sanctification, praying as one in that one eternal act, for the kingdom to come, reign on earth. Fiat. Book of Heaven, Volume 6, Part 1. JMJ. November 1st, 1903. When the soul does all of her actions for the sole purpose of loving Jesus, she walks always in daylight. It is never nighttime for her. Continuing in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself, and I saw myself as a little steamboat. I was all surprised at seeing myself reduced to that shape. In the meantime, my adorable Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, the life of man is a steamboat, and just as it is fire alone that allows the steamboat to move, and the more lively and the bigger the fire, the faster it runs, while if the fire is small, it moves at a slow pace. And if the fire is extinguished, it remains motionless. The same for the soul. If the fire of the love of God is big, it can be said that she flies above all the things of the earth, and she always runs and flies toward her center, that is, God. If then the fire is small, it can be said that she walks with difficulty, crawling, and getting all muddy with everything that is earth. If then it is extinguished, she remains motionless, without the life of God within herself, as though dead to all that is divine. My daughter, when the soul does all of her actions for the sole purpose of loving me, and wants no other recompense for her work but my love alone, she walks always in daylight. It is never nighttime for her. Even more, she walks within the sun itself, that almost like steam surrounds her to let her walk within itself, making her enjoy all the fullness of light. Not only this, but her very actions serve as light for her journey and increase for her ever new light. November 8th, 1903. Jesus tells how the love of neighbor must be. as I was in my usual state, I was praying for certain needs of others, and blessed Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "For what purpose are you praying for these people?" And I, "Lord, and you, for what purpose did you love us?" And he, "I love you because you are my own thing, and when an object is one's own, one feels compelled to love it. It is like a necessity." And I, "Lord, I am praying for these people because they are your own thing. Otherwise, I would not have interested myself." And he, placing his hand on my forehead, almost pressing it, added, It is so, because they are my own thing? This is how the love of neighbor must be." November 10th, 1903. How true love forgets himself. Continuing in my usual state, I saw blessed Jesus for just a little saying to me, "My daughter, true love forgets himself and lives of the interests, of the pains, and of everything that belongs to the beloved." And I, "Lord, how can one forget himself when we feel ourselves so much? It is not something far away from us, or separated, that can easily be forgotten." And again he added that which is precisely the sacrifice of true love, that while one has himself, he must live of everything that belongs to the beloved. Even more, if he remembers himself, this memory must serve him to become more industrious on how to consume himself for the loved object. And if the beloved sees that the soul gives all of herself to him, he shall know well how to repay her by giving her all of himself and letting her live of his divine life. So the one who forgets himself completely finds everything. Moreover, it is necessary to see the difference that passes between what one forgets and what one finds. One forgets what is ugly and finds what is beautiful. One forgets nature and finds grace. One forgets passions and finds virtues. One forgets poverty and finds richness. One forgets foolishness and finds wisdom. One forgets the world and finds heaven. November 16th, 1903. There is no sacrifice without denying oneself, and sacrifice and self-denial give rise to the most pure and perfect love. This morning, as I was outside of myself, I found myself with baby Jesus in my arms, and with a virgin who laid me on the ground to make me suffer the crucifixion, not with nails, but with fire, placing a charcoal of fire on my hands and feet. Blessed Jesus was there assisting me while I was suffering, and said to me, "My daughter, there is no sacrifice without denying oneself, and sacrifice and the denial of oneself give rise to the most pure and perfect love. And since sacrifice is sacred, it happens that it consecrates the soul to me as a sanctuary worthy of me, to make of it my perpetual dwelling. So let sacrifice work in you to render your soul and body sacred, so that everything may be sacred in you, and consecrate everything to me. November 19th, 1903. While one is nothing, one can be all. Continuing in my usual state, I saw blessed Jesus in my interior, and a light in my intellect saying, while one is nothing, one can be all. But how? One becomes all through suffering. Suffering makes the soul become pontiff, priest, king, prince, minister, judge, advocate, repairer, protector, defender. And since true suffering is the suffering wanted by God in the soul, and the soul appeases herself completely in his volition, this appeasement, united to suffering, allows the soul to rule over justice, over the mercy of God, over men, and over all things. Now, just as suffering gave Christ all the most beautiful qualities and all the honors and offices that the human nature can contain, in the same way, by participating in the suffering of Christ, the soul participates in the qualities, in the honors, and in the offices of Christ, who is the all. November 23rd, 1903. There is no beauty that equals suffering for God alone. I felt concerned in my interior by what I had written above, as though it was not according to the truth. So as soon as I saw blessed Jesus, I said, Lord, what I wrote is not right. How can there be all this through mere suffering? And he, my daughter, do not be surprised. Indeed, there is no beauty that equals suffering for the love of God alone. 2 arrows come from me continuously, one from my heart, that is of love, and it wounds all those who are on my lap, that is those who are in my grace. This arrow wounds, mortifies, heals, afflicts, attracts, reveals, consoles, and continues my passion and redemption in those who are on my lap. The other one comes from my throne, and I entrust it to the angels, who as my ministers make this arrow flow over all kinds of people, chastising them and exciting all to conversion. Now while he was saying this, he shared his pains with me, telling me, Here, in you also the continuation of my redemption. November 24th, 1903. How each word of Jesus is a link of grace. Continuing in my usual state, I saw blessed Jesus in my interior for just a little, and as if he wanted to continue to remove doubts from me, he told me, Daughter, I am the truth itself, and falsehood can never come from me. At the most, it is something that man does not comprehend, and I do this to show that if one does not comprehend his word well, how can he comprehend the Creator in everything? However, the soul must correspond by putting my word into practice. In fact, my words are many links of grace that come out of me and are given to the creature as gift. If she corresponds, She connects these links to the others that she has already acquired. But if she does not, she sends them back to her Creator. Not only this, but I speak only when I see that the creature has the capacity to receive that gift. And corresponding to me, she acquires not only many links of grace, but also many links of divine wisdom. And if I see them linked with correspondence, she disposes me to give her yet more gifts. But if I see that my gifts are sent back, I withdraw, keeping silent. December 3rd, 1903. With the divine will, we are everything. Without it, we are nothing. Continuing in my usual state, my blessed Jesus came for a little, telling me, "My daughter, any human action that has no connection with the divine will puts God out of his own creation. Even suffering itself, as holy, noble, and precious as it might be before my eyes, if it is not a birth from my will, instead of pleasing me, makes me indignant and is disgusting to me." O power of the will of God! How holy, adorable, and lovable you are! With you we are everything, even if we did nothing, because your will is fecund and gives birth to all goods for us. Without you, we are nothing, even if we did everything, because the human will is sterile and makes everything sterile. December 5th, 1903. How the holy desire to receive Jesus makes up for the sacrament in such a way that the soul breathes God, and God breathes the soul. Since this morning I could not receive communion, I was all afflicted, though resigned, and I thought to myself that if I had not been in this position of being bedridden and of being a victim, I would certainly have been able to receive him. And I said to the Lord, "You see, the state of victim subjects me to the sacrifice of depriving myself of receiving you in the sacrament. At least accept the sacrifice of depriving myself of you in order to content you as a more intense act of love for you, because at least, thinking that the very privation of you proves my love for you more, sweetens the bitterness of your privation." And as I was saying this, tears were pouring down from my eyes. But oh goodness of my good Jesus, as soon as I began to doze off, without making me wait and search for a long time, as usual, he came immediately, and placing his hands over my face, he caressed me and said, "My daughter, poor daughter, courage. The privation of me excites the desire more, and in this excited desire, the soul breathes God. And God, feeling more ignited by this excitement of the soul, breathes the soul. In this breathing each other, God and the soul, thirst for love ignites more. And since love is fire, it forms the purgatory of the soul. And this purgatory of love serves her, not as just one communion a day, as the Church allows, but as a continuous communion, just as the breathing is continuous. But these are all communions of most pure love, only of spirit, not of body. And since the spirit is more perfect, as a consequence, love is more intense. This is how I repay not the one who does not want to receive me, but the one who cannot receive me, depriving himself of me in order to content me. December 10th, 1903. Every time the soul seeks the Lord, she receives a divine tint, a divine feature. Continuing in my usual state, I felt a weight over my soul, as if the whole world weighed upon me because of the privation of blessed Jesus. And in my immense bitterness, I did as much as I could to look for him. Then once he came, he told me, "My daughter, every time the soul seeks me, she receives a divine tint, a divine feature, and is reborn in me as many times, and I am reborn in her." While he was saying this, I was thinking of what he had said, almost surprised, and I said, "Lord, what are you saying?" And he added, "Oh, if you knew the glory, the taste that the whole of heaven feels in receiving this note from the earth, a soul that constantly seeks God, all similar to them. What is the life of the blessed? What is it that forms it? Their being reborn continuously in God and God in them. This is the saying, God is ever old and ever new. Nor do they ever feel tiredness, because they are in continuous attitude of new life in God. December 17th, 1903. The adoration that the Most Holy Virgin did when she encountered Jesus carrying the cross. The true spirit of adoration. Continuing in my usual state, for a few instants, I saw blessed Jesus with the cross on his shoulders, in the act of encountering his most holy mother. And I said to him, "Lord, what did your mother do in this most sorrowful encounter?" And he, "My daughter, she did nothing but a most profound and most simple act of adoration. And since the simpler the act, the more easily it unites with God, most simple spirit. In this act she infused herself in me and continued what I myself was doing in my interior. This was immensely pleasing to me, more than if she had done any other greater thing. In fact, the true spirit of adoration consists in this. The creature dissolves herself and finds herself in the divine sphere. She adores all that God does, and she unites with him. Do you think that when the mouth adores, but the mind is somewhere else, it is true adoration? Or the mind adores, but the will is far away from me? Or one power adores me, and the others are all disordered? No, I want everything for myself, and everything I have given her in me. This is the greatest act of worship, of adoration, that the creature can do to me. December 21st, 1903. Effects of the sorrows of the Celestial Mamma. The glory she enjoys in heaven. This morning I found myself outside of myself, and looking into the vault of the heavens, I saw 7 most refulgent suns. But their shape was different from the sun that we see. It started with the shape of a cross, and it ended with a point. And this point was inside a heart. At first, it could not be seen clearly, because the light of these suns was so great as to not allow one to see who was inside. But the nearer I drew, the more clearly it appeared that the Queen Mama was inside. In my interior, I kept saying, how I would like to ask her whether she wants me to try to go out of this state without waiting for the priest. In the meantime, I found myself near her, and I told her, and she answered a curt no. I was left mortified by this answer, and the Most Holy Virgin turned to a multitude of people who surrounded her and said to them, "Listen to what she wants to do." And everyone said, "No, no." Then drawing near me, all goodness, she told me, "My daughter, courage along the way of sorrow. See, these 7 suns that come out from within my heart are my 7 sorrows that produced much glory and splendor for me. These suns, the fruit of my sorrows, dart continuously through the throne of the Most Holy Trinity, that feeling wounded sends me 7 channels of grace continuously, making me the owner of them. And I dispose of them for the glory of all heaven, for the relief of purging souls, and for the benefit of pilgrim souls." While saying this, she disappeared, and I found myself inside myself. December 22nd, 1903. The cross forms the incarnation of Jesus in the womb of souls, and the incarnation of the soul in God. As I was in my usual state, my adorable Jesus came as crucified, and after he shared his pains with me, while I was suffering, he told me, "My daughter, in the creation, I gave my image to the soul. In the incarnation, I gave my divinity, divinizing humanity. And since in the very act in which the divinity incarnated itself in humanity, in that very instant, it incarnated itself in the cross, in such a way that from the moment I was conceived united with the cross. It can be said that just as my cross was united with me in the incarnation that I did in the womb of my mother, so does my cross form as many other incarnations of mine in the wombs of souls. And just as the cross forms my incarnation in souls, the cross is the incarnation of the soul in God, destroying in her everything that gives of nature, and filling her with the divinity so much as to form a sort of incarnation, God in the soul, and the soul in God. I remained as though enchanted on hearing that the cross is the incarnation of the soul in God. And he repeated, "I am not saying union, but incarnation, because the cross penetrates so deep into her nature as to make her nature itself become suffering. And where there is suffering, there is God, as God and suffering cannot be apart. And the cross, forming this sort of incarnation, renders this union more stable, and the separation of God from the soul almost as difficult as is separating suffering from one's nature. On the other hand, through union, the separation can easily occur. It is understood always that this is not the incarnation, but a simile of the incarnation. Having said this, he disappeared, but after a little while he came back in the act of his passion, when he was covered with opprobriums, with ignominies, with spit. And I said to him, Lord, teach me what I could do in order to move these opprobriums away from you, and give you back honors, praises, and adorations. And he said to me, My daughter, around my throne there is a void, and this void must be filled with the glory that creation owes me. So the one who sees me despised by the other creatures and honors me not only for herself, but for others, makes honors for me arise again in this void. When she sees me unloved and loves me, she makes love for me arise again. When she sees that I fill creatures with benefits, while they are not grateful to me and do not even thank me, and she is grateful to me as if those benefits were given to her, and she thanks me, she makes the flower of gratitude and of thanksgiving arise again for me in this void. And so with all the rest that creation owes me, but denies to me with awful ingratitude. Now, since all this is an overflow of the charity of the soul, who gives me not only what she herself owes me, but does for others what overflows from herself, since this glory and these flowers that she sends to me into this void around my throne are the fruit of charity, they receive a tint more beautiful and more pleasing to me. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 6, Part 1. Fiat. My God, I thank you for your lessons of today. Free me from living one single instant outside of your will. Have pity on me. Do not permit that I either know or acquire any other life except that of your divine will. Fiat et Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.